G'day poker people, Florida Man hits me with some less than friendly table talk as he puts in the 3-bet, and you better believe I'm not going to take it lying down. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video to see the exciting conclusion to this hand. Additionally, I play an over $6,000 all-in pot. There's so much to get to in this insane game of 5-10 at the One Eye Jacks in Sarasota, so let's get to gambling. Let's go. We are in the 5-10 streets for 2,000 bangers, and then the early position player limps, and I'm in the low jack with 9-7 of clubs. I raise it up to 50, and then a loose aggressive cutoff 3-bets to 150. When the limper folds, I do hate calling 3-bets out of position, but when we have a hand that actually performs overly well against a tight 3-bet range, I don't think we can be folding just yet at 2k effective, so I do throw in the call, and then we heads up to a flop of a 5-5-4 rainbow with one club. I check it over to the villain in flow, who checks back. When they check back, I think they're going to have a lot of ace-king and ace-queen in their range, which is definitely on the weaker side, so when the turn's the jack of spades, putting in backdoor spades, I want to start trying to blast them off of that ace-high type stuff. Don't think they'll fold to one barrel, but it's going to be hard to press to call off against two, so I actually want to put in a bit of a big bet here, keeping in all their ace-highs, so I make it 300 bangers to go, and then the villain throws in the call. So we're just really hoping to fade any card above a jack on the river, so when the river's a 6 of clubs, we have the green light to go ahead with our bluff. I don't think we should go ahead and bet something like 1,000 or larger, just because it's not totally impossible. The villain did trap with an overpair on the flop, but they do have a jack, but I think a bet around 800 should be enough to get them off of ace-king and ace-queen, so I may get 800 bangers to go. Then the cutoff is in the tank 30 seconds. I'm squeezing my sphincter, hoping they fold, and eventually they do fold, so let's go. We're taking down the first hand with a bluff, baby. Next hand, the cutoff straddle is on, and I know, because it's me, I think I had to go poop or something, and now I'm just posting the cutoff as a straddle. Whatever the case though, a loose aggressive O-jack opens it to 60, and then I'm last to act on the cutoff. Going to be defending very wide here, getting a good price to play the pot in position, so I peel 9-2 offsuit. I said I was calling pretty wide here. I do throw in the call, probably a little bit too loose, but folding is boring, and we are heads up to a flop of 9-4-3 with 2 clubs. Very happy to flop top pair, so when the villain checks it over to me. If we're going to get value with this hand, this is the best street to do it on when the villain can still float with some of his ace highs, so I go ahead and make it 75, and then the villain throws in the call. So we're off to a turn which is the ace of spades. Absolutely awful turn. We lose a lot now, so when the villain checks it over to me, we're just going to take a free river here, and then the river is the bloody 5 of clubs. Let's go. We make a straight in a spot where I think the villain has a bunch of pair type hands, so when they bet out for 200, I am very tempted to raise something large like over 1,000 here, but I think that'd be a little bit too greedy. If you watched my previous vlog, you know that was a bit of a leak where I got too greedy with my value sizes. I think it's going to be pretty transparent that it's a 4-liner out there, as well as clubs getting in. I really don't want to scare my opponent off if they do have ace-king or ace-queen, so instead I raise a bit smaller. I make it 500 to go, and then the low jack is in the tank about 30 seconds. You can see she absolutely hates this spot, but eventually does throw in the call. Let's go. I show my hand, and she ends up mucking, and we're raking in yet another pot. You love to see it. Things have started off hot this session, and they don't exactly slow down from here, since literally the next 4 times we decide to play a pot, we actually end up winning every single one of them, and nothing huge, no pots over 500 or anything, but we win every single one of them, so we are starting to build up a big stack in this 5-10 game. You love to see it, but this next pot we play is definitely on the larger size. The action folds to my cutoff, and I peel ace-4 offsuit, raise it up to 40 bangers. Definitely borderline, but I don't think it's awful with only 2 blinds. I make it 40, and then I only get called by a tight player in the small blind, as well as a looser player in the big blind. So we're 3 ways to a flop of ace-jack 4 rainbow. Let's go. We flop the 2 pair. Our run good continues. When the villains check it over to me, definitely want to start building a pot. I go ahead and make it 75 bangers. Honestly, think I could go a bit larger. I think both of the villains have a bunch of top pairs on this board, and I can get a bit more greedy in this spot. Whatever the case though, I make it 75, and apparently I didn't get too greedy because both of the villains call. We're 3 ways to a turn, which is the 6 of clubs. Then the small blind leads out for 75. When the big blind folds, the action's on me. It's definitely a little bit tempting to raise, but honestly, this is a tighter villain, and I have a little bit of hesitancy about playing this hand too aggressively. Even though they did bet small on the turn, I mean, it could definitely be ace-king in all honesty, but even if they did have a set or ace-jack, jack, I wouldn't be totally shocked either. So I do throw in the call, and honestly, I'm going to play this one a bit cautious against this opponent in particular. So it heads up to a river, which is the 3 of spades. Then the small blind chooses the larger bet size. He goes ahead and makes it 300 bangers. I mean, versus most players, I would probably just be snap calling this or potentially raising for value, since I think Ace King is going to do this a lot of the time. But honestly, when he chooses this large of a size, I think he has a hand that can beat Ace King, and he's hoping I have Ace King. Most likely Ace Jack, but pocket 4s or even pocket Jacks not totally out of the question either. Ace 6 we also lose to. So yeah, I really do think it's definitely a tighter fold, but I think this is the exact right opponent where you're going to beat them by exploiting them with really tight folds. So I sort of grit my teeth and end up making the lay down. The villain himself marks. He later told me he had Ace Jack, which I do believe, but if it was a bluff, it was a really good one, mate, because you got me off an absolute monster. Let's try and get our chips back in this next one. +1 raises it to 40, and then I'm in the cutoff with 6-4 of clubs. Definitely going to be 3-betting or folding, especially with this hand. And folding is boring. I raise it up to 150. In all seriousness, this is too loose for sure. I make it 150 though, and then a tight aggressive button 4-bets me to 400. Right punishment for playing this hand. When the +1 player folds though, I do think the button has a very strong range here, and we have the perfect hands to crack aces and kings. So I actually do decide to throw in the call here. Again, probably a bit too loose, but I would rather be calling the 4-bet with this hand than even Ace King in all honesty. So we are heads up to a flop of 9-5-3 rainbow with 1 club. So we flop the open ender. Of course, I'm checking it over to the villain in flow, and he goes ahead and c-bets 500. And when he chooses this large sizing, I'm thoroughly convinced he has kings or aces here. Don't want to check raise as a bluff. I don't think he's folding those. I think this is a great spot to call, and just fingers and toes crossed we get there, because we're winning an absolutely giant pot if we hit. So I throw in the call. We're off to a turn, which is the jack of spades, putting out backdoor spades. Absolutely no help for us. I check it over to the villain, who actually checks back, which I was very happy to see. I think they're trying to be deceptive with their aces and kings, and I just really hope I get there still, because we are getting paid if we do. And then the river's the ace of clubs. So we do not get there. I briefly consider bluffing to try and get him off kings or queens that are going to hate this river, but I ultimately decide against it. I need to use the large size to ensure it folds from those hands, and I can just run into the opponent having aces or jacks sometimes. So I give up and check it over to him, and he checks back and shows pocket king straight away. So I end up mucking my hand, and I don't have to show it to anyone. I sure hope thousands of people don't see me having this hand here. Whatever the case though, I end up mucking, but I am left wondering, what if the opponent folded that to a lead on the river? Next hand up, the villain raises it to 35, and I'm in the hijack with the JJ Abrams pocket jiggities. I make it 125, and then the early position player calls. So it heads up to a flop of queen 9-4 with 2 diamonds. Not the best flop in the world, but when the villain checks it over to me, I think it's worthwhile going for a bit of thin value here. If we're going to get called by a worse hand on any street, this is probably the best one to do it on. Don't want to go ahead and bomb it or anything, but I think 125 is large enough to get called by pocket 6s. So I go ahead and make it 125, then the villain calls. So we're off to a turn, which is a 6 of spades. Then we really hope the opponent doesn't have pocket 6s. When they check it over to me, I think this is a good spot to check back and just play a bit of pot control if my opponent has a queen, and potentially line up a bluff catch on the river. So I check it back. The river is the 3 of hearts, should change absolutely nothing at all. When the villain goes ahead and bets 300, a little bit worried because they can easily have king queen, ace queen, but I think if I checked it back on the turn to try and induce bluffs, I really can't be folding. So I throw in the call, and the villain tells me she has an 8. I fast roll, #Fastroll Poker app, use the code LEEBETS to get your first month free on an annual subscription. Really helps improve your game and collect your local database of your hand histories. I fast roll my hand, and she ends up mucking hers, and we're raking in another pot, and things are turning around this session. You love to see it. Next hand up has the under the gun straddle line, and I know because it's me, baby. So there's 4 open limps before the actions on my straddle with Jack 9 offsuit, and honestly I am tempted to open fold this absolute piece of trash hand, but my inner nerd's like, come on, you're going to get to see a flop for free. So I do check it back, and we are off to a flop of 9-6-4 with 2 spades. So when we do flop top pair, as much as I absolutely hate Jack 9, I think it's worthwhile betting for a bit of protection / value with this one. So I go ahead and make it 50, and then I only get caught by the hijack. So it heads up to a turn, which is the 5 of clubs. Now, I think this is a great spot to keep betting for value. I think the villain's going to have a bunch of draws on this board, and he'll have a bunch of stuff that's like a 9 9x with a straight draw now, since any 8 or any 7 is a draw. So I think this is a great spot to actually go ahead and overbet the pot for value. There's so many worse hands we can get called by. So I go ahead and make it 275 bangers to go. And then the villain doesn't think too long before throwing in the call. So we're probably going to have to fade a bunch of stuff on the river. So when the river comes down the 10 of clubs, this is a pretty bad river card. We even lose to 10-9 now. Flush is also super likely. So I just check it over to the villain and on fingers and toes crossed they check back. But when they go ahead and bet 400, we know our hand's no good here. So I decide to snap fold it. And then the villain was kind enough to show us he did have king 7 of clubs. So there you go. We do get max value when we're ahead and we get away when we're behind. But it's just this bloody jack 9 hand. It's just such a trash hand and I always lose big pots with it. I think next time it checks to me in the straddle, I might just open muck it. Next hand up, the under the gun straddle is back on, and then there's 3 open limps before I'm in the big blind with the JJ Abrams once again. I raise it up to 175, and then an aggressive straddle puts in the 3-bet to 525. When all of the limpers fold and the action's back on me, I actually hate all of my options in this spot. Folding will be way too tight. If I go ahead and 4-bet here, it's going to be pretty dicey because I think we might end up value owning ourselves, and we'd be committing a lot when we've only got 4k effective in our stack. So it kind of leaves me with one option, which is calling. I really do hate calling 3-bets out of position, particularly since I think my opponent's a bit wider. So really tough spot. I do ultimately decide to call though. Let me know what you would do in the comments below. Whatever the case, we are heads up to a flop of 953 rainbow. Pretty happy to still have an overpair here. I check it over to the villain in flow who does check back, so we're loving that. So when the turn's a 7 of spades, I think it's a good spot to put in a little bit of a value bet / equity denial bet. I think maybe ace king will call once, but I'm not totally sure. Let's find out. I'm going to bet my lucky number. I blaze it up to 420. Then the villain throws in the call. So we heads up to a river, which is the 2 of spades, putting in backdoor spades. Now I don't think the villain's going to call another bet with ace high here. So I check it over to them, seeing what they go ahead and do. And then they're in the tank about 30 seconds or so before checking it back. So very likely we do win this one. I show my hand. They end up mucking and we're raking in a near $2,000 pot with the JJ Abrams. Let's go. This next one's a fun one because the action actually folds to a loose aggressive hijack who goes ahead and raises it to 60. There's no straddle on, they've just opened it a straight 6x. So I think they have a very strong range here. So when the action folds to my button, I'm probably going to be continuing pretty light in this spot. And then I peel pocket aces. Oh my God, you love to see it. Now I've already made the assessment that I think the hijack has a very tight range here. So when we've got the absolute nutted best hand in all of poker, I've gone a 3-bet of course, but I actually want to use a large size because I think my opponent is not folding whatever tight range they're opening the 60 with. So I decide to boof it up to 305 dale. Then the action folds back to the villain who throws in the call. So love that we're getting action with aces, and then we heads up to a flop of king jack 4 rainbow. When the villain checks it over to me, it's really not the best flop in the world for me. I think the villain's going to have kings and jacks pure. Having said that though, I still want to put in a bit of a value bet if the opponent has ace king or pocket queens. Even pocket tens, they might call 1-bet as long as it's small. So I go ahead and make it 200. Then the villain is in the tank a good 60 seconds. They're really thinking this one over, but eventually they do call. So we heads up to a turn, which is the 6 of diamonds. The villain rips it all in for a little bit less than 700, and I'm still a little bit worried about one of those sets, but honestly, if they had ace king, I think taking this line makes a lot of sense, and maybe they're turning like pocket tens into a bluff. So I do throw in the call here, and then the hijack asks, do you have a king? And I just fast roll, #Fastroll Poker app, use the code LEEBETS to get your first month free on an annual subscription. I fast roll my pocket aces, and then she shows pocket queens. She's got 2 outs going to the river, and the river is the king of clubs. That's no good for them. It's great for us, and we're raking in this over $2,000 pot with my favorite hand in all of poker. Things can't get better than this. Next hand up, the under the gun player who was on a phone call with one of his employees that he was yelling at. He goes ahead and open limps, and when the action folds to my hijack, I actually want to be raising pretty wide here. I think the opponent's distracted by a phone call. Probably going to be more likely to fold, so I go ahead and raise it to 50, but then they do throw in the call. So we heads up to a flop of queen 4 deuce, all diamonds, so pretty awful flop for us. But when the villain checks it over to me, I still think they're distracted by the phone call, so probably more likely to fold. So unless they've connected with this board, I think we're going to get it through. So I go ahead and make it 40. Then under the gun calls. It's definitely not ideal, but when we're off to a turn, which is a 7 of hearts, and they check it over to me again, I definitely want to continue barreling here. I think if they do have a flush, if we bet a small size, they'll check raise us, and then at least they'll know. So I go ahead and make it 75. And then under the gun calls. So when we're off to a river and it's a 4 of spades, they check it over to me. I think we want to put in another barrel here. I think they're going to have a lot of natural, like ace of diamonds, X hands, and even if they do have a queen, I don't think they're going to love putting in a lot of money to a giant bet here. So I go ahead and absolutely bomb it to 500 bangers, and then the under the gun player finally gets distracted from his phone call. He looks over at me, and then he throws in the call. Damn it, you hate to see it. I proudly table my bluff, and then the villain goes, "Thank you for the donation," as he shows Queen 10 offsuit with no diamonds. Absolutely great call by the villain there, and he did it whilst he was on a phone call, so power to him. Next hand, the same villain opens it from the small blind to 60, and when I'm in the strat, I'm going to be defending very wide, getting to play this pot in position. I have King 8 offsuit. It's definitely better than 9-2 offsuit, so of course I'm going to defend it. I throw in the call, and then we heads up to a flop of King Jack 9, a rainbow. Love hitting top pair here, so when the villain c-bets for 60, I'm not bloody leaving. I throw in the call. We're off to a turn, which is a 3 of diamonds, completing the 4-card rainbow. And the villain doesn't slow down. They go ahead and bet 130. Definitely concerned that I do lose to a stronger king. I think if the villain had a straight or 2 pair, he would have used a larger size, but it's completely possible that they are bluffing, so can't leave just yet. I throw in the call, and then we're off to the river, which is the 9 of spades pairing the board, and the villain puts in one more bet. He goes ahead and makes it 300 bangers, and look, I've come this far. I don't think I'm going to fold now. The fact that the board pair makes it a lot less likely. The villain does have 2 pairs. Still do lose to better kings, but if you got it, mate. I throw in the call, and then the villain announces, "I've just got a jack." So I show my hand, and then the villain shows Jack 8. So let's go. We hero call for 3 straights, and we're raking in another pot, baby. So we have ran up a stack on this absolute sun run we've been on today. We have over 6,000 bangers in our stack, but the night is far from done as we hop into this next action-packed hand. So there's 2 open limps, and then I'm on the button with ace queen offsuit. I'm buff it up to 75 bangers, and then the villain next to me goes ahead and 3 bets to 300. And then something interesting happens. One of the limpers folds, but one of them actually cold calls the 300. So now when the action's back on me, could go either way between 4 betting and just calling. I suspect the small blind is 3 betting with a wider range, given that I'm on the button and I've been playing some nonsense hands. So I think it's a good spot to go ahead and 4 bet to deny equity to both them and the limper, who's likely limp calling with a pocket pair they're trying to set mine with. So I go ahead and buff it up to 1,200 bangers, and then this small blind's in the tank for a few seconds before ripping it all in for 5,000 effective. The limper folds, the action's back on me here, and obviously I'm not going to stack off for $5,000 with ace queen. I end up folding my hand, and then the opponent jumps up and he slams down ace queen on the table. So there you go, he put in the 5-bet bluff shove with ace queen. He was very proud of himself. He was going on for about 10 minutes about how it's like the first time I've ripped it all in as a bluff pre-flop for that much, and power to you, mate. And I was rightly punished for my aggressive 4-betting. This next one's definitely a fun one, and it's a spicy one too against the Florida man himself. It starts off with me under the gun with pocket queens. Let's go. I raise it up to 40 bangers, and then the action folds round to the definitely loose aggressive Florida man in the big blind, who says this.
I was never crazy about split. Fuck you.
Hey Lee, fuck you, as he goes ahead and 3-bets me to 130. God damn it. I actually think this might be a decent spot to just throw in the call, but I know this player is playing super aggressive, even without the table talk, so I'm not going to take it lying down. I have this to say to the Florida man.
Fuck me?
Oh, you can't.
Fuck you.
You can't fold now. That was good.
I tell Florida man, fuck you too, and I go ahead and 4-bet it up to 330. I would like to take this point in time to point out that poker is a gentleman's game. I will say it wouldn't be an awful spot to just flat pre-flop, but against a loose player, I think buffing it up's a good option. So I go ahead and make it 330, and then the villain is in the tank for a few seconds before putting in the 5-bet. What is going on? I've been 5-bet twice today, but he goes ahead and makes it 1,035. The action's back on me, and we are 3k effective with the villain, so I think I have two choices here. Flatting would make no sense at all. I'm either all in for 3,000 or I'm folding, and 5 bets are usually so strong, despite the other villain showing us the ace queen previously, but I think the chances he has aces or kings are pretty likely, and I thought the table talk was weak when he first did it, but now he's thrown in the 5 bet, maybe not so weak. So ultimately, I decided to make a pretty disciplined laydown with my pocket queens here. Florida man asked me if I would like to see one card, and of course I snap call that offer, and I flip over the king of hearts. He would later say he had ace king, but we'll never really know for sure. Let me know if you would have folded in the comments below. Next hand up, Florida man's at it again. He goes ahead and raises the small blind to 40. I'm in the big blind with 9-8 of hearts. Really could go either way between calling and 3-betting here, but y'all know I want my revenge here. I 3-betted up to 150, and then the small blind puts me in my place as he goes ahead and 4-bets to 340. So actually a little bit over a min click here, and I think it's a good spot to throw in the call, getting that we're going to play this pot in position. Usually hate playing this hand against ranges that are ace king heavy, but I also don't want to fold for this pricing position. I throw in the call, and then we heads up to a flop of 9-7-6 with 2 hearts. So we flop an open-ended straight flush draw as well as top pair. Don't think I could ask for a better flop in all honesty. When the villain checks it over to me, I actually want to check back. I think we're going to be ahead of a lot of the villain's range, mostly ace high type stuff, but if we are behind, they probably have an overpair, and I don't think we need to unnecessarily bloat the pot against that type of hand. So I do check it back, take a free turn, and I'm glad I do because it's the 3 of hearts. Let's go. We have a flush. Now I really hope the opponent does have an overpair, but when they check it over to me again, it's probably a bit unlikely. So I definitely want to put in a value bet here and sort of just trying to target if the opponent has like ace king with a heart potentially. I think the maximum size bet that one will call might be something like my lucky number. I blaze it up to 420, and then the villain is in the tank a good 90 seconds or so before putting in the check raise to 900. I was not expecting that at all. I really don't think the villain does have a flush. If he has a flush and he played it like this, power to you, you're going to get paid off, but I don't know. I think I'll be pretty much having the nuts here. And I actually think I just want to throw in the call here. Just give my opponent a bit of rope to keep bluffing or thin value betting a worse hand. So I go ahead and throw in the call, and I'm really just fingers and toes crossed that we do not see a 4th heart on the river. And then the river is the 8 of clubs. Looks pretty clean to me, especially when the villain goes ahead and rips it all in for over 1,700. Obviously, I am snap calling this one, and the villain straight up just tells me, you win. I end up tabling my flush. The villain marks as we rake in this $6,000 pot with a flush in a 4-bet pot. Oh my god, we are running so hot today. Felt a bit bad for the Florida man, but maybe I feel like saying fuck you too.
Is it 5 minutes? Yeah.
What a session. We end up raking in that last hand, which ended up breaking the game. We were already playing 4-handed at that point, so we were down to 3 after he left. Ended up playing 10.5 hours on the session. What an effort to grind that much volume, if I don't want to pat myself on the back too much. I think I largely played pretty well throughout the session. Definitely did get a bit too wide with some of those VPFs, particularly the 6-4 and the 9 deuce. Having said that though, I'm happy with my play overall and think I did earn an A grade for the session. My effort was rewarded rather handsomely financially, winning 5,091 bangers. You absolutely love to see it. It's always fun to watch me sun run in a vlog, but things don't always go my way like that. I'm going to put another video up on the screen now where I run a little bit worse than I did in this one, so click that if you want to see the Uno reverse of me running well. For now though, I'm out of here. GG Gamble Gang.